Claire always thought she knew the shape of her life. She had Michael, her husband of 7 years, a stable home in a quiet suburban street, and a routine that felt safe. But Sunday evenings were often the moments when life crept in and reminded her that nothing was as simple as it seemed. That evening, as she sipped her tea in the living room, Michael's tone made her put the cup down. He sounded nervous, careful, almost fragile. "Claire, we need to talk," he said softly. The words weren't alarming, but they carried a weight she couldn't ignore. She looked at him, her mind already racing with possibilities. Michael had always been honest, always thoughtful. But the hesitation in his voice hinted at something he hadn't said before. "I've been thinking," he continued. "I want us to be completely honest with each other. About everything. And I think you might be feeling something. For someone else." Claire froze, a chill running down her spine. He was right, of course. She had been feeling drawn to Emily, her friend. It wasn't a simple attraction, it was emotional, confusing, and undeniable. She had spent months telling herself it was harmless, that it would pass, but it never did. Every message, every meeting, every casual glance from Emily stirred something deep inside her, something she hadn't fully faced. Michael waited patiently, his hands clasped together, eyes soft but searching. "I don't want you to hide your feelings from me," he said. "I want you to be honest, even if it's complicated." Claire's heart pounded. She didn't know what she was supposed to feel: relief that he wasn't angry, or fear that the life she knew might change forever. Michael, sensing her confusion, added quietly, "If you ever want to explore your feelings emotionally with someone you care about, I don't want you to feel afraid." She stared at him, shocked. His words were not what she expected. He wasn't jealous. He wasn't angry. He was calm, supportive, almost tender. It was bewildering. For years, she had expected marriage to mean boundaries, limits, and clear rules. Now, those rules seemed different. Now she had the freedom to acknowledge feelings she didn't fully understand. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She looked down to see a message from Emily. "Can we talk tonight? I need to see you." Her pulse jumped. The timing felt like fate, or perhaps a challenge. Claire swallowed hard, unsure if she was ready for what this meeting might bring. She whispered to Michael, "I don't know if I'm ready for any of this." He reached out, placing a gentle hand on hers. "Then start with the truth," he said. "With her and with yourself. You don't have to have all the answers now." Claire nodded, though her mind was spinning. Her husband's calm acceptance was both comforting and terrifying. She wanted to take a step toward honesty, but the reality of what that meant scared her. There was Emily, waiting, probably filled with her own mix of hope and hesitation. And there was Michael, trusting her in a way that made her heart ache with gratitude. She thought about Emily's presence in her life. Every time she saw her, she felt a warmth that was hard to define. It wasn't about romantic fantasies or fleeting desire, it was about connection, understanding, and the kind of comfort she didn't even realize she had been missing. Emily's laughter lingered in her mind, and her calm, kind demeanor made Claire feel seen in ways she hadn't expected. And now, Michael had given her permission, not in words exactly, but in trust, to confront those feelings, to recognize them, to face them without guilt or shame. Claire had always believed in honesty, but she had never imagined honesty could feel this heavy or this liberating. She glanced around their quiet living room, sunlight softening the edges of the furniture. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt the same. The stability she had known was shifting, not in a destructive way, but in a way that demanded courage. She needed to talk to Emily to confront the emotions that had been quietly growing between them. And yet, she couldn't ignore the flutter of fear that came with that thought. Claire's hand tightened around her cup as she took a deep breath. Her husband's gentle words replayed in her mind, urging her forward. He didn't want to lose her. He simply wanted her to be true to herself. And maybe that was the most challenging gift anyone could give, the freedom to make a choice. Knowing the stakes were high, yet feeling completely supported, the message from Emily waited on her phone. A small, glowing reminder that decisions had to be made. Claire felt her pulse quicken, a strange mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through her. One choice could change everything, or it could open a door to understanding, growth, and connection that she hadn't expected. And as she looked at Michael, quietly waiting, she knew that whatever happened next, she wasn't alone. There was trust, there was love. And now there was a new kind of honesty she had never dared to explore. Claire took a final deep breath, stood and whispered to herself, "I have to face this." The evening ahead promised emotion, revelation, and choices that would shape the next chapter of her life. She didn't know exactly what would happen, but one thing was certain. She could no longer avoid the feelings she had tried to ignore. And Emily was waiting. It was a beginning, fragile and uncertain, but real. Claire's drive to Emily's house felt like the longest 15 minutes of her life. The sky was fading into twilight, painting the streets in gold and pink, but the beauty around her went unnoticed. Her mind raced, jumping between Michael's calm words, the flutter in her chest when she thought of Emily, and the fear of how this conversation might unfold. She parked in front of Emily's house and sat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm her racing heart. Every instinct told her to pause, to retreat to safety. But she knew she couldn't. Not tonight. She walked up to the door, each step heavy yet full of anticipation. Emily opened it almost immediately, as if she had been waiting by the window. Her expression was a mix of relief and uncertainty. Eyes wide but soft, lips pressed into a thin line. Claire noticed her hands shaking slightly, a subtle tremor that betrayed how much this meeting meant to her. "Claire, I'm glad you came," Emily said, voice barely above a whisper. There was an urgency in her tone, yet it was delicate, careful. Claire stepped inside, feeling the familiar warmth of Emily's home, a cozy space filled with muted lights and soft colors. But the warmth didn't fully reach Claire's heart. Her emotions were tangled, raw, and new. Emily led her to the living room, small sofa, and a single lamp creating a private, intimate corner. She sat, gesturing for Claire to take the seat beside her. Claire hesitated for a moment, then sat, careful to respect the space between them while sensing the unspoken tension that lingered. I didn't know who else to talk to," Emily began, her words uneven, like she was trying to hold herself together. "I've been feeling something for a while, and I tried to ignore it, but I can't anymore." Her voice shook, and she glanced down at her hands. Claire felt her chest tighten at the sight. "Emily, what are you saying?" Claire asked softly, afraid of the answer but needing to hear it. Emily lifted her gaze slowly, meeting Claire's eyes with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. "I care about you, more than I should. I've tried to convince myself it's just friendship, but it's not. I feel something real, and I don't want to hide it anymore." Claire's heart pounded. Every emotion she had tried to bury the longing, the excitement, the guilt surged forward at once. She wanted to speak, to explain herself, but the words felt fragile, insufficient. She remembered Michael's calm, trusting words from earlier, telling her to be honest, to feel what she felt without fear. "Emily, I didn't know," Claire whispered. "I mean, I felt something too, but I didn't want to complicate everything." Her voice faltered, and she looked away for a moment, gathering courage. "I care about you and Michael. He knows. He wants me to be honest, even if it's hard." Emily blinked, shocked and overwhelmed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. He knows." Her voice was a mix of disbelief and relief. "And he's okay with it. He trusts me," Claire said gently. "He trusts that I'll handle this with care, that I'll think about everyone's feelings. And he doesn't want me to hide who I am, or what I feel." Emily's lips parted, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or fall into Claire's arms. Claire could feel the tension between them, thick and electric, a strange mix of fear, hope, and unspoken longing. The room felt small, yet the emotions were enormous, impossible to contain. "So, what does this mean for us?" Emily asked quietly, her voice trembling. Do we just pretend it doesn't exist? Or do we face it?" Claire shook her head. "I don't want to pretend, I want to understand what this is between us. And I want to do it carefully without hurting anyone, especially not you and not Michael. Emily let out a slow breath, nodding. I don't want to hurt anyone either, but I can't ignore this anymore. Not my feelings, not what I see when I look at you. Claire reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against Emily's in a small, comforting gesture. It wasn't romantic at least not yet, but it was grounding. It was a connection that spoke louder than words. Both women felt the electricity of the moment, the delicate balance between what was known and what was possible. I don't know what's going to happen, Claire admitted, but I do know that I don't want to run from this. Not anymore. And if we move forward, we have to do it slowly, carefully, honestly. Emily's eyes softened, a small smile breaking through her uncertainty. I can do slow. I just don't want to lose you before we even try. You won't, Claire said firmly. We'll figure this out together, and we'll do it with respect for everyone we care about. The air between them shifted, no longer just tense with uncertainty, but filled with a quiet hope. They sat there for a long moment, shoulders almost touching, hearts beating in sync with a new rhythm, one that was full of questions. Yes, but also possibilities. Claire realized how fragile and delicate this moment was. One wrong word, one sudden move, and everything could shatter. But she also realized that truth-honest, emotional, heartfelt truth was the only way forward. She could feel her own courage growing, tempered by the trust she shared with Michael and the newfound connection with Emily. As she stood to leave, the weight of the evening pressed on her shoulders, but it was different now. It wasn't fear alone, it was a mixture of excitement, anticipation, and an undeniable sense of life stretching into something new. She knew she had taken the first step into uncharted territory, guided by honesty, trust, and genuine care. And though the night had been filled with confession and vulnerability, it also left Claire with a sense of clarity. She understood that the coming days would require patience, thoughtfulness, and emotional courage, but she was ready to face it. Because whatever happened next, it would be built on truth, connection, and the possibility of something beautiful, something real, tender, and profoundly human. For the first time in months, Claire felt her heart both nervous and alive, ready for the path that lay ahead, and Emily, standing there with a hopeful, trembling smile, would walk that path with her. The next morning, Claire woke to sunlight spilling across the bedroom floor, soft and warm. The quiet of their house felt comforting, yet her mind was restless, still filled with the echoes of last night's conversation with Emily. Michael was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee in his hands, the steam curling gently into the air. He looked up as she entered, his expression calm, patient, full of understanding. You don't have to rush anything, he said, his voice steady and gentle. Just tell me how you feel when you're ready. Claire sank into the chair across from him, her thoughts a whirlwind. She thought of Emily's face, the vulnerability in her eyes, the honesty that had come so naturally. She thought of the fluttering warmth she felt whenever Emily smiled, whenever their hands brushed lightly, and she thought of Michael, his calm, trusting presence, his willingness to let her navigate her emotions without fear or judgment. I care about her, Claire admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Not in the same way I care about you, but in a way that feels important. Emotional, real, complicated. Michael nodded slowly, a quiet understanding in his gaze. Then explore it, he said simply, carefully, thoughtfully, with honesty, but always with boundaries that make us all feel safe. Claire exhaled, a mixture of relief and gratitude washing over her. His trust felt heavy and precious, a gift she couldn't take lightly. You're not losing me, she whispered. I know, Michael said with a soft smile. Love doesn't disappear just because the heart grows. That afternoon, Claire found herself driving back to Emily's house. Unlike the night before, there was no trembling nervousness, only a quiet determination and a fluttering hope. She parked, got out, and walked up the familiar path, her heartbeat quickening not from fear, but from anticipation. She could feel the beginning of something fragile yet real, connection that deserved attention and care. Emily opened the door almost immediately, her expression soft but expectant. There was no hesitation this time, only a mix of hope and relief. "So, what did you figure out?" she asked, voice low and sincere. Claire stepped inside, closing the door behind her. She took a deep breath. "I want to understand what's happening between us. I want to do it gently, respectfully, without rushing, without hurting anyone, and without denying what we feel." Emily's face softened, a small smile breaking through her nervousness. "I can do gentle," she said quietly. "I just don't want to lose you before we even try." "You won't," Claire assured her. "We'll take it slow, step by step, and we'll be honest every moment." They sat together on the couch, close but not pressed together, space between them a reminder of the careful balance they needed to maintain. Their conversation moved naturally, sometimes pausing for breaths, sometimes lingering on the small, shared gestures that had always meant more than words, like a hand brushing against the other. A shared smile, a look that lingered just a moment too long for the first time. Claire realized that this wasn't a story of betrayal or confusion. This was a story of honesty, trust, and emotional courage. It was about three people learning to navigate feelings without fear. Michael, who trusted her completely. Emily, who was brave enough to speak her heart. And herself, trying to understand what her emotions really meant. "I think this could be something special," Claire admitted. "Not complicated in a harmful way, but meaningful, emotional, honest." Emily nodded, her eyes glimmering with emotion. "I feel the same. It's scary, yes, but it also feels right, like it's exactly where we're supposed to be." Claire's mind wandered briefly to the future. She imagined moments like this becoming routine, not in a rushed, chaotic way, but in a slow, thoughtful rhythm where emotions could be expressed without shame or guilt. A relationship built on honesty, compassion, and care. As the afternoon turned into evening, Claire stood to leave. Emily walked her to the door, and for a brief moment their hands touched again. Not a touch of romance, not yet, but a grounding connection that spoke of trust, hope, and new beginnings. Claire stepped outside, inhaling the cool evening air, feeling the weight of the day settle into something gentle and steady. She understood now that love could grow in many directions, that it didn't have to be confined to one shape or definition. Michael's trust allowed her the space to explore, and Emily's honesty offered her a mirror to understand herself better. Driving home, Claire realized that life had shifted in subtle but profound ways. This wasn't chaos, it was growth. A new chapter was beginning, one that demanded patience, courage, and emotional honesty. The feelings between her and Emily would take time to understand. But the foundation was there: respect, trust, and the willingness to face the unknown together. By the time she reached home, the sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and purple. Michael was waiting for her exactly where he had promised. With a quiet smile and no questions, just the gentle assurance that he was there, Claire sat beside him, her heart calm and full. "It's going to be okay," she said softly, more to herself than to him. "It is," Michael replied. "We'll figure it out, together." That night, as Claire went to bed, she felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in years. The emotions were real, the choices difficult, but for the first time in a long while, she felt fully alive. She had faced her feelings honestly, shared them with someone she cared about, and had the support of the person who loved her most. And though the road ahead have moments of uncertainty and vulnerability, Claire was ready. She knew that love, in all its forms, required honesty, patience, and courage. She smiled to herself, a quiet, hopeful smile, knowing that whatever happened next, she and Emily would navigate it together with truth, care, and respect guiding every step. For the first time in a long time, Claire felt whole, alive, and ready for the next chapter built, not on fear or secrecy, but on understanding, trust, and the fragile, beautiful beginnings of something real.